Welcome back to the episode of Practice Underwater. Matt and I are back. We took a little break. Last week we were back, and we are back again. So this is I'll do a quick summary of part one. This is an interview that we have with Dr. T. Dr. T bought a practice. So this interview was done in April, beginning of April. Dr. T bought a practice in September. So he had owned it for like roughly seven months. And practice was doing 1.3, and now it's doing like 1.25. And so we had a lengthy interview. So he said he wants his 8 ops. He's got 3 front desk, 2 hygienists, and he wants a group practice. He had talked about adding an associate. We talked about last time in the outro. Kind of the play here is growing hygiene and him checking some more hygiene. And Suzanne's going to talk about that in this interview. Some other things we talked about in the outro were kind of clarity on his vision last time. We talked about his doctor to hygiene ratio. So if you have any kind of thoughts on part one, I'd recommend going back and listening to the interview. And our outro is a beefier outro Matt and I did last week. And then this interview, Suzanne, is a lot more tactical. Part twos of these Practice Underwaters are a lot more tactical, strategies we can use in this office to actually grow it. And she goes through it, dental intel with him, and really talks about a lot of those things. So Matt, do you have anything you'd like to add, kind of recapping last week and kind of prefacing our audience for this interview?
No, I'm less fired up for this one. So if you want to hear more fiery me, make sure you listen to the one last week. But
Matt was fired up last week. We had a great accountant discussion. I love putting accountants in their scope of practice. So
this is a great interview with Suzanne. You guys are going to enjoy this.
Yeah, Suzanne's great here. So without further ado, Suzanne, take it away with our real doc, fake name, Dr. T. See you in the outro.
Welcome back to another episode of Practice Underwater. For those of you who are jumping on for the first time, or if it's been a while you've listened to our podcast, I am really recommending you go back and listen to part one with our Dr. T. Welcome back, Dr. T. Glad to have you.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So listen, I want to give the audience a little sneak peek again at and a reminder of our conversation from last week. So can you give us a little bit of background again on the practice?
Sure. Yep. Practice was initially established about 40 years ago. It traditionally does collections of about 1.3 mil year in, year out. It's an 8-op practice with 2 doctors, 2 hygiene, 2 assistants, 3 front desk. Both of the docs worked out of 1 chair with 1 hygienist for a total, total doctor days and hygiene days about 7 and 7.5. I purchased the practice in September of last year, September 2020, and in my tall task here is to update a lot of old equipment and get some more patients in the door.
Okay, great. So we talked last time about low new patient flow, which kind of has been historically up and down. There's not been a lot of consistency. And then you talked about your website too, that you're completely revamping. That you're going to put up swell ASAP, right? To get those reviews up. You've got a ways to go. You have 4 reviews, and you really have to beat someone in your area that has 663 reviews. Okay, so let's get working. Okay, but I do want to bring to light here a common kind of question that we get in terms of like, okay, we need to bring in more new patients. And I really want to take a step back. Yes, of course, we're going to talk about the new patients, but I really want to talk about the ones that already have a relationship with you. Now, you mentioned that those patients are patients that have been with the practice for years. The team's been there for a long time. By the way, as a reminder to the audience, we have 3 front office team members here and a company outsourced with AR. So I see a lot of opportunity with a lot of time available. Question for you. Job descriptions, particular roles in the practice. Does kind of everybody help each other out, or do they have kind of a lane that they focus in?
Traditionally, there has been very much a lane for everybody. You have one hygiene that's doing just hygiene. The assistants are doing sterilizing, flipping over the rooms, etc. And front desk is very siloed from front house is very siloed from back house. My hope was that by bringing on that third party that would do billing, claims, insurance, etc., that was going to free up some of the front of the house to help out a little bit more with back house duties, and that has not come to fruition.
Mm-hmm. So are these 3 team members that you have up front full-time?
Yes, they're all
they're full-time and
Monday
team members.
through.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
So what I want to talk about now is the back door. We've got some new bodies coming in the front door. Granted, those are not high in number. What I want to point out here is, so we've got about, at this point, 1,400, a little over 1,400 active patients in the practice.
That sounds about right.
But of those that are actually, that we can count on and we can call retained in the practice because they have an appointment scheduled ahead, we've got that at 58%. So you have just a little over half of the patient base that has an appointment scheduled in the future. So with as many bodies as we have up there, let's define those roles first and foremost. Okay, so you've got AR kind of taken away. So we need someone to be a patient care coordinator. And that patient care coordinator's role, you mentioned she takes care of hygiene. That would be naturally her. I would say let's get her focused on getting these patients back in the door. We've got quite a pool of patients that you've seen recently, most recently, from 0 to 6 months. We've got about 218 of those. Now, they're not all overdue, 1,400, a little over 1,400, but we only have 58% of those patients actually scheduled in the future. Okay. So flip side of that, we've got an opportunity with 42% of 1,400. That's quite a number of bodies. So when I look at just...
So we're saying 42% of the active patient base does not even have a hygiene schedule booked,
correct.
Just nothing.
Okay. Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I call that an opportunity, right? Now,
yes,
we've got
indeed.
3 bodies up front. So we were talking about making sure that one of those is actually really utilizing a reactivation program, get these bodies in the door, get that hygiene schedule filled. Now, you mentioned being 6 weeks out. So when we're going to start then bringing in some bodies in the door, we're going to need some room for these people to be put in, right? As well as with the new patients. So I talked about the existing patients. I'm going to just talk about new patients now. And let's just look at March, but this happens to be a trend. You saw 7 new patients in the month of March, but only 2 are actually scheduled in the future. Okay. So whatever efforts are out there to actually get the new patient in, it takes so much effort, right? And get them to connect and stay. So they are not scheduled ahead for hygiene. Now, I want to say you guys are getting a really great ratio of case acceptance. I can tell that when you diagnose dentistry, patients are saying yes. Okay? What I don't see is the hygiene reappointment being necessarily a focus for the hygienists. So I looked at March, looks good in terms of 83% of the patients being appointed ahead. So from the hygiene chair, 83% of the time, a patient is walking out with that next appointment scheduled. But that's not necessarily been historically where I've seen those numbers over the past few months. I mean, we were in the 70s a lot of times. So do you feel like is that something you've been telling the hygienists to make sure that they're doing? Like you said you don't have computers chairside, right?
No. They have a computer for taking intraoral photos. Basically, it's the function of having each of the hygiene rooms has a laptop in there, and they use that to take intraoral photos to present to the patient so that we get some case acceptance. Yeah. As far as actually scheduling anything or using Open Dental, no, I don't think they do. No.
Okay, so that's first and foremost. Let's get them scheduling if they can. Chair back there. Do you have Open Dental on those laptops?
Yes.
Okay, so they need to be building value for it. Okay, they need to be actually making sure that they're talking hygiene.
Yeah.
So if they could schedule that in the back, then that alleviates some of that in the front. And the responsibility is lying now on someone at the front desk to build value for that next step when that hasn't necessarily been done in the back.
Okay. I guess what because we had an old system, not necessarily Open Dental, and we just switched over in December. I guess I was always skeptical of the data, so I didn't bother digging into the numbers. The feedback that I've personally gotten from staff is, "Oh yeah, doc, we always appoint. Nobody leaves without an appointment for their next hygiene cleaning." And according to these numbers, that is not the case. That is not even close to the case. So if the data is valid, then yeah, we have a massive leaky bucket here.
So one thing to keep in mind is Dental Intel, the actual code should be attached to the next appointment. And as I peek in, I see that's being done. So that's telling me data must be right. There are some no-shows and cancellations like we talked about last week, where I said you've got about a week's worth of hygiene that fell out here in 1 month. Okay, so that tells me, oh yeah, doc, we are scheduling in the future, but are we scheduling that and getting patients to stay in the schedule? I think that's key too. Is getting so having the hygienist actually appoint ahead is one thing. Having the hygienist appoint ahead with value is another thing. So how the hygienist is actually communicating that next step. What area of concern does the hygienist have for that patient? So it kind of gives the patient a reason for, hey, let's keep that appointment in 6 months because I know that my hygienist wants to see me for this. And, you can play a huge role there too when the doctors are doing their exams. Just kind of saying, hey, Mrs. Jones, let's make sure we see you in 6 months. Again, you're building value for that next step, right? If I understand why you're telling me to come back in 6 months, there's a greater chance that as a patient, I'm going to be in the chair. Now, I mean, when I'm looking at cancellations, that's one.
So we're saying that 70 or 80% have a reappointment rate. They're getting a new appointment, and then we're having almost a quarter of them cancel.
That's what it looks like. Absolutely. So in the month of March, let's kind of back up a little bit here. In the month of March, the hygiene team together appointed 83% of those patients. But in the month of March, so that's going forward, right? 6 months ago, whatever it was that they scheduled is actually canceling and no-showing at a rate of about a week. Those number of patients. Now, those cancellations and no-shows could be on your side, on the doctor's side, could be on, that's basically here I'm looking at just a total of the cancellations and no-shows. So your gut must be telling you if it's more on your side or if it's more on hygiene, which tends to be typical on the hygiene, right? It's kind of, just a cleaning. It's not an appointment with the doctor. So, that.
Is there any way to break it down to the data to doc versus hygiene in there?
What you can do is look at it month over month. You can go in Open Dental and kind of get a sense of exactly, if you pull that report out of your practice management software, you'll be able to see exactly where those cancellations and no-shows. But I guess we're being reactive here, right? We're looking at March data and kind of reacting to that number and saying, let's go pull a report. What I would say, let's work on the proactive approach. Okay, so let's concentrate our efforts and making sure our hygienists are appointing ahead and then appointing ahead with value. Now, again, you will see your cancellations and no-shows start to reduce, but it's going to take a while to get there, because when they're working on this now, they're working on a patient that's scheduled ahead in 6 months from now. So you're going to start to see the fruits of this. It's going to take a while, but hey, no time like the present, right? We want to start now, making sure that, and then you've got team support too. So you have enough team members up front to actually be a little more on purpose when they're answering the phone, and just not making it easy for that patient to change their appointment. I mean, you'd be surprised with some scripting when the front office team is told, hey, like, we're not going to make this easy anymore. We need to build value and support what the hygienist is doing in the back, and really continue to hone in on why the patient needs to be there. Hey, so sorry to hear you can't make your appointment today. Is there anything we can do to help you keep that appointment? So the languaging and the scripting is important up front as well, so that they're just not making it so easy. That way we support the back office team, and the doctors are supporting that as well. So you're all kind of speaking the same language. Then your cancellations and no-shows are reduced, but we're actually appointing ahead as well, and making sure everybody has a next step. For you, with this small a patient base and the direction you want to be headed and the space you have, you definitely, like, everybody is fragile for you. So I'd say retain everybody, make sure they have a next step. In morning huddle, discuss who's not scheduled in the future, and then who's responsible to make sure that gets scheduled. Then I would say reactivate. Look at the overdue patient base. You've got quite a bit here, like I said, in the most recently seen, but you also have quite a bit in the 6, 9, 12, up to 18 months that are not scheduled in the future, that are overdue for care. So get that patient care coordinator to be making those phone calls. And so we're going to reactivate all of this at the same time as you're going to grow that new patient flow. When you've got more bodies, at least you've got these systems and these foundations in place. So when you do add more new bodies, you're really paying attention to making sure that patient is scheduled ahead in the future. Because again, like I said, we've only have 2 out of the 7 that you've seen. And that's kind of been pretty consistent there. Okay. So it sounds like you're headed toward more of this group practice atmosphere, but you're operating at a more of a productive solo level at this point. Right?
I mean, so what patient pool would theoretically one doc support? It's about 1,500 patient base.
Yeah, you bet.
Support one doc.
You bet. So that kind of ideal situation is 1 doctor, 2 hygienists, anywhere between 1,500, 1,600 patients. Okay. So you're at that 1 doctor right now. So how do we
got 2?
Exactly. So how do we get to that? So you're heavy on the doctor side. Let's make sure we bring everybody in. Let's make sure every new body has a next step. Because if you're going to be spending a lot of this marketing dollars on attracting more new patients, that patient acquisition is going to be on the high side if they walk out the back door and are not scheduled for their next appointment. Okay. So you've got some valuable bodies here that we need to pay attention to and really be, strategizing together as a team around how we're going to make sure everybody has that next step in the practice.
Okay. At what point would you, so let's say we start really reactivating patients and start bringing some of the old ones back in, overdue patients. We staunch the flow of cancellations and we bring in some new patients from the marketing, et cetera. At what point would you add a new hygienist, new hygiene days?
So you said you have 7.5 now. That's exactly how much time you need or how many days you need to actually support the current patient base. So every new body, if you say you're booked out 6 weeks, I say don't wait. Let's start with adding another hygiene day, or at least why 7.5? Why not be 8 days of hygiene at this point? right? You've got that extra time there. I would say it wouldn't be a bad idea to add another hygiene day.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
If you don't necessarily, I mean, I know someone would say, hey, you've got a lot of openings, you've got a lot of, patients that you don't have a high new patient flow at this point. Why add hygiene? And I'm saying you need some spots here. You need to be a little bit more creative with the opportunities that you have, so that a patient that's new can get in right now, and a patient that is a reactivated patient that you can get in sooner rather than later. Like, you don't, if it's 6 weeks out and somebody's actively making these calls and spending a lot of time on these calls, then I feel like we need some space to be able to put these patients in.
Okay.
Okay. So, like I said, for you, every body is just so precious. And so let's kind of be on purpose with our decisions on a daily basis. Are you guys having a morning huddle?
They weren't doing any meetings at all whatsoever before I took over. Now we're doing weeklies.
Okay. How soon can we get this into dailies?
We could get that in pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say you guys need it, because you want to talk about a next step for every patient. You want to make sure you're looking at the patients on your side, on the doctor's side, that are scheduled and don't have an appointment in hygiene. You need some help with your assistants who can know this and prep ahead of time, and then say, hey, we have 3 of our 8 patients that we're seeing today on our doctor's side that don't have their next step in hygiene. Let's go ahead and do it. I've said this on the podcast many times. Doctor can be doing something in another operatory, and I'm the assistant. I'm getting them scheduled. I'm talking about, hey, we noticed you don't have your next appointment scheduled. Let's go ahead and do that while we're waiting for the doctor to come back. So everybody playing a part, from the front office to the assistants to the hygienists, everybody really honing in on everybody's so precious. Let's make sure that they don't walk out the door without scheduling ahead.
Yeah, traditionally there's been no, certainly for the first 3 months, there's been no visibility to any of these numbers whatsoever, because scheduling was done on a paper chart from paper scheduling. So you're like, I have no earthly idea what percentage of the patient base is even being utilized. So it was like step 1 was get Open Dental in here, get some patient management software, and see what's going on. Because traditionally the office has just, if the doc schedule is full, then okay, then we're cool. And
sure. And with 7.5 days of hygiene, it's easy to notice that they're full and they're great. So, we're really taking out of our gut, kind of, oh yeah, doc, we schedule ahead everybody, right? I mean, our gut is but our gut is telling us we're really, I mean, they're not lying. In their mind, they're saying, oh yeah, we're scheduling everybody in the future. But I think 2 things are happening. 1 or 2 patients that they don't schedule, that's adding up, to 2 or 3 a day. And you kind of think you get everybody scheduled. I think they're passing off to the front and hoping it happens. And maybe the patient walks up front and says, oh, look at their watch and go, oh man, I got to go. You know what? Just send me a postcard, or, just give me a call when the time comes up. Right. I think that's happening a lot. And then with little value being built and the patients thinking that, this is just a cleaning, and someone at the front desk just saying, no problem. Let's see you next week. Then let's get you rescheduled. Right. If we're handling this in that way, and then sort of this cycle is hard to break. So let's kind of just reel this back in and say, okay, we are going to start now looking at all of the ways that we're going to know who has an appointment and who doesn't. And doing your morning huddle also means you can look back at yesterday and look back at how the team did, and kind of celebrate the wins when they are scheduling ahead. Yay, we got 100% of everybody that was in yesterday. It's a great opportunity to give your team some feedback as well. Okay.
Yeah. So, I think the big value of Dental Intel, et cetera, is actually having the numbers there, because without it,
sure, you don't know what you don't know.
We schedule everybody, and I'm like, okay, cool, great, guys, sounds good. And meanwhile, there's 40% of the practice is just sitting there not having an appointment.
And you probably just sold dental intel to everybody that's listening today because because everybody's saying, hey, yeah, I don't know what I don't know, right? But the metrics don't lie. The numbers are the numbers. So, at the end of the day, if we're looking at these numbers and not liking the results, then we can at least make certain decisions about how to move forward. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, the other thing that kind of I'm connecting the dots here for you is when I look at like the total visit in a hygiene appointment, I can see that they're not seeing as many, they're not full every day. There's a lot of cancellations and no-shows, and that's driving that number down. We've got under $100 per visit on the hygiene side. So this is a great way to also improve your hygiene production, which ultimately has an impact. Now, early on, I said you guys are getting a great number of percentage of case acceptance, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So case acceptance is on the high side. Where I'd like to see more is you having more inventory to actually diagnose on. The diagnosis part isn't on the high side. So if we're going to get to a place where we're going to be improving our monthly production, we have to be also able to present more dentistry. And you just need more bodies to be able to present on.
Right.
To fill your schedules.
Right. When I talk to them, I show them, you need this crown. They go, okay. And they usually schedule it. But the problem again is, it's exactly that.
It's just
I should
patient
be having
flow.
2 hygiene checks per hour. And if you have that, then you have plenty of production to fill out the schedule. Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Now so if we do that 8 days of hygiene and we add on we lengthen the 7.5 to 8, and now we're adding another, a 9th day of hygiene, for example. You'll have prepared some spots for reactivated patients and for new patients. And that way, that will increase your inventory pretty quickly. Now, you good with that in terms of, what that's going to cost?
As far as adding another hygienist.
Hygienist,
well,
yeah.
Yes,
and a hygiene
I've
day.
I've never hired a hygienist before. Do you just say come in for one day? Is this a normal thing? Just paying per diem?
Well, again, are you, think about is the one that's working a half day, is she going to lengthen her day, or are you going to do a day and a half? So this is pretty typical for hygienists to work a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. I mean, honestly, it's finding a hygienist that's hard. It's not necessarily, so you just know which day or day and a half and if she's not lengthening her day and a half, then here's what I suggest. It's easier to find a 2-day-a-week hygienist than it is a 1-day-a-week hygienist a lot of times in a lot of areas. So I say leave her at 7 at that half day, whoever's working that half day, and then hire a hygienist for 2 days a week. Okay. And it's not like you don't have the patients for it. I mean, you do have patients that you need to reactivate. And then as you grow your marketing, then you'll have a reserved appointment for everybody that can come in today or tomorrow. You'll have something available. And as those 2 days get filled up, that's when you start adding more. Okay. So the motto or the moral of our story is retain and reactivate and grow.
Yeah, we definitely have to do the retain and reactivate, because sometimes that patient doing the hygiene scheduling has difficulty filling up the days as is. And if I'm going to say, hey, we're going to add 2 hygiene days, she's going to be like, you're out of your mind. We're not filling our schedule as is. So then you have to come back with, okay, here's the list of reactivations. We need to start going down this list. Yeah.
You bet. So you also,
ready.
Well, and let's just kind of circle back on your front office team. You've got 3 full-time team members that are sitting there. One person alone can be dedicated to reactivation, and you've got somebody else doing treatment plans. They're not bogged down with insurance, so you've got probably a third person there that does backup treatment planning and probably some financials, like with patient balances. I don't know if you've outsourced entire AR or just insurance AR.
Just insurance stuff.
Just insurance.
We don't have anybody to be
Yeah. So there's maybe
Those many
some
patients.
patient balances or, whatever that this third person, you
I
should.
think our current AR is something like 120K right now. And it would be really lovely to have that money on hand. Boy, that'd be nice.
Well, look,
But again, traditionally, they've been doing actual physical mailing of claims, like stick a stamp on the envelope and mail it out to the insurance. And I'm like, we can't do this, you guys. This is nuts.
Well, part of your AR is also tied up because of credentialing, right? Tied up because you're not fully credentialed. So, okay. So I bet there's a lot of chatting going on up front. I've been there myself. So streamlining their positions in a way where they each have specific roles, and one will be patient care coordinator, one will be primary treatment plan treatment coordinator, and then you've got to back up a third person that backs up treatment coordinator and does patient balances, whatever financials, and deals with as a liaison to your AR company, So you've got all of your bases covered in that respect.
So let's break this down one more time. One person is going to be doing basically the hygiene and reactivation.
Yep.
Second one is going to be doing treatment planning and that's basically booking the doc schedules.
Correct. And then you've got that third person that does backup to treatment coordinator. Because, if you've got two doctors and you've got more hygiene, chances are you'll have a need for someone else to step in as a treatment coordinator as well. And then
phone rings all the time.
And so
according to them, they're busy every single second of the day doing something. I have no idea. I just take them at their word.
Yep. Without streamlined tasks, you can make yourself busy, all day long.
Okay.
So I think really setting up who's going to do what, you decide which team member is going to be sitting in what seat, basically. Job descriptions, go over that with them. But I think, again, no time like the present when it comes to making sure that someone is assigned to the role of reactivation. Okay.
So if we were going to tie each one of these dental intel numbers down to a duty or like, if you have a role, you still need a measuring stick, a report card, etc. How are we doing? So the reactivation person, we may sit there and review what percentage of the patients don't currently have a new appointment. Okay, let's work on that. Treatment planning would be percentage of treatment acceptance.
Yep, you'll go with treatment acceptance. You'll go with patient acceptance. Those are the two benchmarks to take a look at. That's a good point you make here. When you're going to track their effectiveness in this role, right? So Dental Intel is the perfect tool to be able to do that, where you will be able to see the lists and how they're reducing. If you just look at the front page of it, you see that there are 647 unscheduled patients. Well, that number should go down. So that's good. And I mentioned, hey, huddle is important as well. So you're going to be looking at who in today's schedule doesn't have an appointment and how did we do yesterday? So you can find reasons to celebrate, right? And then on the restorative side, you've got a panel that describes patient acceptance, case acceptance, and all of your AR, you're still kind of keeping an eye on that, right? Your collections.
Yep.
So everything kind of rolls back up into that.
Yeah. So there's just so many things that need to be done. The good thing, the silver lining here is that despite all of this, still we consistently do collections of like 110 a month. Like even with all of these holes in the bucket, there's just, if you can plug the holes, get the reactivations and get the new patients in the door, like this thing could really, really take off. There's just so much upside here.
Yep. You saw the opportunity. Absolutely. And it's now just, kind of taking hold of it and maximizing that opportunity, right? Like if we go back to your original conversation about vision, now you going in, like, okay, so keep in mind, they haven't had huddle. You've now introduced a weekly. Now it's going to be another change, right?
Yeah.
So you're the one that's going to make all of this happen in terms of who's going to do what, in terms of assigning. And, I think a good idea is you kind of thinking about sharing your vision with the team so that they know that these changes, they really understand that there's whys to these as well. Like you're sharing the why. So be intentional.
I mean, certainly with the weeklies, with the rest of the team, I told them, like, I'm an underutilized doc. I want 2 hygiene here. So all of the issues that we're having right now, we should be ironing them out when there's a lot of slack in the line. Because as soon as we have 2 hygiene checks every hour, there's not going to be any room for any of these kind of, I wouldn't call them errors, but slip ups, etc. Yeah. So they know that what my goal is for me, at least. I don't think I've talked to them specifically about filling 8 chairs. But I guess what do we have those chairs for, guys? They're great decorations, but let's fill them.
There you go. A lot of what we've talked about today actually also pays for, all of the things that you're doing in the practice as well. More bodies in the chair, more you can diagnose, more revenue coming in, which ultimately pays for all of the things you want to do in there. So, yeah, you got a lot of work to do.
My home day, man.
Listen, Dr. T, you need our help. Okay.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
You need our help. All right. Well, listen, I hope I answered all of the questions that were top of mind for you. I hope you got out of our time what you were hoping for.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it's been great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a guest on Practice Underwater. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Welcome back to the outro for this episode of Practice Underwater. Matt, we said that he was not fired up about something, but correction, he is fired up about one thing. So I thought I would let Matt kind of talk about his favorite part of this interview about the laptops and the ops.
Yeah. This wasn't quite a spit out my coffee moment, but it was close. It was kind of like it starts to come up, but then that actually doesn't come out.
We do know you were not drinking coffee, right?
I wasn't at the time.
This was not almost spit out fake coffee. That's what we got.
Yes, that's where we're at. So yeah, I honestly can't believe it. Like, I don't. What is he waiting on? Maybe to like, I know IT is an investment, but like not having the computers in the ops is a weird look, especially when I can imagine he's taking the laptop, holding it, putting it in front of their face, and then showing them the photo, which they see it. It's right in front of them. And I used to do this with iPads, so I can't knock it too much. But it's a weird look. I think an investment in IT would probably be a smart move for him.
Do you feel like he's a physician? You know how they walk around between the exam rooms with their laptop? Does that have a deal like when you go to your physicals? Like they walk around room to room with a laptop. Is that how you think he's doing it? Or do you think the laptop is stuck in the room?
No, it's not. I hope he has laptops in every room that are different.
I don't think so.
Oh no, really? You think?
Well, think about it. If he had a laptop in every room, why would he have a laptop? Just get a computer and a monitor.
Okay. I take everything nice I said back. That's terrible. That's awful. You'd almost need like a designated assistant to be the laptop moving assistant. That's like a role and responsibility that one assistant has.
He has it on like a surgical cart.
This is our mobile computer.
Carting around Dendrix.
That puts a whole new meaning to mobile computer. It's literally on a cart.
Yeah, his open dental is just mobile between the ops. He has one computer.
That's really hard. That's hard.
Oh, I'm loving your reaction to this so much.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him walking around like he has a computer in his restorative room, and then they call him for hygiene exams? Like, let me get my laptop. He goes and gets his laptop and carries it to the hygiene room.
All right.
We got to get back on track.
We got to settle down here. Okay.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Okay, so we've talked about this. That's got to change. He knows it. Okay. Next up, I want to talk about something that Suzanne encourages him to do, which I think both of us were skeptics for a while. Then we started to warm up to it a bit. At morning huddle, and I just did this in my office. Now that I'm only there a day and a half, I was like, I needed to have some of this go on. Staff come together, the whole deal. I have loved what I saw from it. Like, absolutely love of everyone is liking that time together. using the Dental Intel Morning Huddle tab for all the opportunities for unscheduled hygiene, for AR, for unscheduled treatment, for like moving people around. Like we got an open spot here. Let's try to get this person to do hygiene that they're due for, kind of deal. Like all the tactical things you can do with it. It's been amazing. And I think do you do these at your office? I'm actually not sure.
So this is actually something Suzanne and I have talked about a lot, and I've agreed with her. Morning huddle is the best way of running a practice. My issue with it is I don't want to be there. That's one. That's one of my objections.
I'm not there.
Second objection is I have people starting at different times.
Yeah.
And you have like 4 different start times in a day.
Right. So it's tougher.
Just the scheduling of my practice. So I call it the huddleless offense that we run.
That's good. Why can't you do the no huddle offense?
Yeah, no huddle offense. I call it. Yeah, no huddle offense. So we do everything on routing slips. So we'll communicate all the things that are discussed in a morning huddle on routing slips. The only area where we mess up on is those opportunities to get hygiene into doctor side or emergencies, like those same day scheduling opportunities. We don't do as well in our huddle offense.
You're a bad example. So for 95% of the listeners who want to practice, who have one staff that all start at the same time.
Yeah, no, this is a no-brainer.
This is a must do. And I can't believe I haven't done it for so long. Because I think what really made the difference was the morning huddle tab on DI. Like once I seeing that and see how, like, what the purpose, like actually
have a productive huddle. I think that's the big thing.
That's what I mean.
We have beef with unproductive huddles, which is the majority of huddles are very unproductive. It's like hey, just complain for 5 minutes and tell your staff, like, nag them on things to do. Like, remember guys to close the toilet. It's like what are we doing here? Like, this isn't productive.
Yes. That's
but if you're going to use it to actually grow and create same day revenue, then it's worth it. It's worth the time. But think about it. Your investment in time and staff costs has to be growing your practice on a day-to-day production basis. And that's where the Dental Intel huddle really helps.
For sure. And one thing that Suzanne added that I will now add to mine is looking back at yesterday and celebrating the wins. That was a cool little thing I hadn't thought of.
I love that.
Appreciating what they did yesterday and calling out staff for that. So, yeah, that was, I think it's going to make a difference in this Dr. T's practice. George, I know you wanted to talk
roles up front.
Roles up front. Yeah.
Yes.
For the 3.
So I love this because this is one of my favorite parts about our coaching department and this is something that we sort of had to find out in my own practice the hard way, was we went from really like kind of 1 front desk, kind of like 1.5 front desk we had, to now we have 4, we've had 5 and had to fire somebody. So like, we now have 4, and the blending of roles, like people might not understand if you have not gone from a 1 front desk to a 2 front desk, there's this awkward period of people learning to work with each other. And now it's not just like, they kind of start with this, like, oh, we help each other. We're all doing the same thing, kind of like everyone plays center field type approach. And they've, the move is to have specialists up front. And the one thing I really like about the coaching department is we have this, you have a patient care coordinator, treatment coordinator at the 2 front desk level, right? With 1 front desk, you just call them your front office, your admin, whatever you want to call that position. But then once you split to 2, then it's your treatment coordinator and your patient care coordinator, or your scheduling coordinator, whatever you want to call that second position. And then with 3, that's when you have like the half office manager, half insurance coordinator. And then with 4, you have a full insurance coordinator and an office manager and your treatment coordinator and your patient care coordinator. And, with this guy, with 3 front office, kind of multi-doc office wanting to grow, the play here really is that 3 front desk really well defined, and one of them walking into some type of office manager type role. And I think the coaching department has a very, very nice scaling from 1 to 4 front office, which is the majority of our clients are 1 to 4 front office, and making sure that we have clear, concise roles for each one. And the biggest key is that no 2 people are doing the same thing. And so I think that's the, having your front office of specialists all in very defined roles so you can hold them accountable. So if something's not being done, whose job it was to do it, as opposed to my 2 front office people are not doing their job. That doesn't work because it's hard to hold 2 people accountable for one thing.
So you don't like them sharing any duties on a regular basis?
No, we have backup. So we have
if someone's on vacation kind of deal.
Or checkout is a good one where you need backup, where you have the primary checkout and then you have backup checkout. Or like phones. We have primary phone answering, backup phone answering.
So you are that defined, like you get the first phone ring.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. We have a phone tree. So 1, 2, 3, 4 of my front office, they know. They hear the phone ring. Number 2 is looking at number 1.
Nice.
Yeah. No, of course. You have to. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got
I
to be
mean,
dialed in.
once you're at that 4 or 5, you need
Yeah,
that
you got to
level
have
of,
that
like,
level of detail. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, no. That's a must.
All right. Other things I have for this.
So let me talk new patient flow,
Go for it.
and then I think we'll talk about one more thing.
Yep.
Because I know you have thoughts on the skepticism about the data. Is that where you're about to go?
That's where I'm about to go.
Yeah, I kind of want to wrap up on that one because that's a fun one.
Cool.
But so we talked about a little bit in the outro of part 1 and in the intro today, and Suzanne talked about in the episode, opening up hygiene, right? And this guy has low new patient flow for the number of docs he has, and he's booked out too far. And I just want to make the point that opening up hygiene, doing nothing else other than opening up hygiene, will lead to an increased new patient flow. That is a very counterintuitive thing that people do not understand. So, Matt, do you agree with that premise, though? If he did nothing else other than add 2 days of hygiene a week, he would see more than the number of new patients he's currently seeing?
Yeah, especially if he has some kind of online scheduling, or they're able to get him in sooner. He's going to have more new patients. It's not going to be dramatic, I wouldn't think, but it definitely will go up. I
mean, it's going to be more dramatic than you might think. I think he could get up to 20 with doing nothing else other than from 7 to 20 with doing nothing other than having open hygiene capacity.
Yeah.
So when you talk about like a marketing expense that you want to take on to increase your new patient flow, if you don't have open hygiene capacity, you really shouldn't be marketing.
Yeah.
You should be spending your money opening up hygiene capacity.
It's kind of irresponsible to be marketing at that point.
Yeah, we call it irresponsible. What percentage of dental practices do that? Most. Yeah. 80, 90% of dental practices irresponsibly market without the appropriate hygiene capacity. So it's a big problem. You're wasting money at that point.
Yeah, you have semi-recently stopped actively marketing in your ADOP space because you can't fit.
Yeah. We don't market. We got 59 new patients last month, and I haven't spent $1 in marketing since September. Actually, it's not true. We do $2,000 of pay-per-click. But I kind of view that as like minimal expense.
Yeah, like the keeping up SEO and some baseline of Google ads, but you're not launching another magazine
no direct
campaign.
mail, nothing. Yeah, and the thing is, we just don't have space, and so it's irresponsible to spend money on marketing when I don't have capacity.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of concept. He doesn't have capacity right now, so it's irresponsible to spend money on marketing. His difference is he can add capacity. I'm at a physical barrier.
Right.
Okay. But, so that
was a good point
of increasing your hygiene capacity leads to an organic increase in your new patient flow because you're more available. Patients call your office and they're like, well, I can't get in. Let me call somewhere else, see if I can get in sooner. And then they do. Right. So why don't you be the office that they call to get in sooner? Either they get in sooner when they call you first, or you be the second call. When the other dentist can't get them in, you get them in. We see so many new patients on same day and next day hygiene openings. There's I just got the urge to get my cleaning for the first time in 5 years, and I went here because they could see me that day. And online local med is great because you can see online all of the openings in a practice, and so the patients can very quickly see that you have an immediate opening, and they'll jump on it.
Right.
It pays to be open.
Got it. Open and available, easy to schedule, answer the phone.
Yep. Pretty basic stuff. Just wanted to hit it again. So Matt, you have thoughts on this has been it's good. We're going to make this a running joke now. Every time a doctor comes on Practice Underwater and is skeptical of the data, we will not let it slide. We will always make sure to mention it in the app. Always. This is going to be if this comes up, we're talking about it again. And if you're like, man, they're talking about this a lot. It's like, well, yeah, because it's happening a lot.
Right.
Because from our perspective, like Matt and I have both been on the Suzanne side of the interview. We're trying to do an interview. We have objectives of things we want to discuss. And this dentist that we're talking to is derailing our interview. It's derailing. To me, it's derailing. To talk about the lack of trust in our information. Like, come on. Matt, you got to talk to me.
Yeah.
Thoughts here.
I like that you planted the flag, which is good. So now it's out there. And
we have no tolerance. We have zero tolerance policy on skeptical of
it's right next to the software. It's right next to the accountant stay in your lane flag is the dentists who are skeptical of data flag right next to each other. So I just think we can all come to an agreement, as a shared practice community, that we're just gonna trust this data. I think it just makes it like more effective, easier, whatever you want to call it. Like just assume it's mostly right.
What was he even skeptical about? I don't even remember. He
was talking about it in reference to when he he didn't want to dig into the numbers. He just trusted his staff, and like he didn't like super trust the cancellation numbers that Suzanne was giving him. So he wasn't as hardcore as another dog, I forget which one, who came on and really didn't trust the numbers.
Yeah, no, there's varying amounts of lack of trust.
He was just like somewhat skeptical. But I think we should just, going forward, we'll just assume we got it.
Yeah. Can we learn to trust the company that has done this at 8,000 offices?
Yeah.
That, you represent 0.12% of their practices. So you are not going to present them with an issue that they have. No, it's 0.012%.
0.012, yeah.
0.012%. Like, let's believe it, okay? They've done this many of times. Their information is accurate. It's stood the test of large numbers. You are not the 99.99% of practices that are not yours, that are using the software, are not complaining about it.
What was DI's evaluation in their latest thing?
What do you mean evaluation?
Like, what do they value the company at? Like,
I don't think that's something I say on air.
Okay, well, I don't remember what it was, but you don't get to that high evaluation.
Yeah,
with being wrong.
Yeah, they've
on
received
data.
evaluation that is very high. They are a company that's worth a lot of money. There's a lot riding on the accuracy of their analytics. Yeah. Like,
that's what they do.
Yeah, it's literally their whole company is getting good at this.
Yeah.
Like, I think we can learn to trust it.
Yeah, and so this guy wasn't super egregious, but like we just needed to say that. And
anytime it comes up, we're going to talk about it from now on. So just know that future guests, be careful just believe it, please. Because it's getting to be a bit much. I mean, I feel like it's 30% of interviews, 30 to 50% of interviews. I feel like I'm talking about this with the guest when I did them. It was enough to really feel annoying.
Right. And because like this guy has DI, it just doesn't look. A lot of people don't have analytics at all. So they're just
like, this guy has analytics?
He has DI, yeah.
He signed up for it?
He has DI, yes.
Oh.
So he's just not using it.
He's just not using it?
Yes.
But he's paying for it?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's how we're going to end the episode, on that note. Pondering.
I like when George just gets surprised by something. It's
it doesn't happen often.
Oh, it doesn't. So that's why I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's funny. Tyler, we were doing a Q&A, quick story, and somebody stumped me. So they asked a question. I'm like, I'd never thought about that before.
Oh, nice.
And he said, that's the first time in like hours of Q&A that he has heard me say, I've never thought of that before. And so, it happens every once in a while. And this guy, the not using a software I'm paying for, that one got me.
Perplexing, huh?
Yeah, it's almost as perplexing as walking the laptop around the office.
I'm going to follow up. I'm going to find out.
Yeah, we got to follow up on what the
I'll report back on what I find.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed it. And this was a great episode. I've missed bantering with Matt on these. It's so fun.
It's been fun.
So you guys are catching us in a enjoying each other in the intro outro state. So if you guys didn't enjoy that, I apologize, but I enjoyed it, so it probably stays. All right. So this was a great 2-part series. I hope you guys enjoyed all that we learned from looking at Dr. T's practice. And again, quick thanks to our guests for coming on. If you want to be a guest on the show, I encourage you to reach out. Sean or Matt, do we reach out to Sean at Shared Practice at this point? Is that the best place? So Sean Allard, he's our operations manager. Sean, that's spelled with a W, so SHAWN at sharedpractices.com is a great place to reach out to get on with Suzanne for a Practice Underwater interview. We're booking out a little bit, so try to reach out if you want to get on. That we can get you on a little earlier and get you on the queue. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Feel free to reach out. Thank you to all of our guests for coming on and letting us anonymously poke fun at you and also help you at the same time. So thanks for listening to the episode of Practice Underwater. We'll see you guys next week on the Shared Practices Podcast.